when you think about a chainsaw, there's only so many things you can do with it. When you're talking about AI, the range of applications is almost unlimited, particularly when it comes to the robotic revolution and the role of AI in making robots more functional, more sort of productive and useful in just all sorts of ways, but also more dangerous in lots of ways.
Welcome, my friends, to Generations. Kevin Swanson, your host with you today, and we want to be sure that we are equipping the saints to every good work and that we are understanding the times so that we will know what to do. That was the men of Issachar. Why did they understand the time? Why was that important? So that we will know what to do. We need to be those that can discern what is happening around us. There are those who make things happen. There are those who watch things happen. And then there are those who sit around wondering what happened. And we want to be sure that our listening audience is not among the third category. All right, so today, more on artificial intelligence. Wow, this is a significant leap. This is as significant as the addition of radio and television in the earlier parts of the 20th century and the addition of the internet that comes on at the beginning of the 1990s. Now we have artificial intelligence. Very, very important that Christians would know what to do with this. And I think it's good to list the things that AI cannot do. I just kind of brainstormed this morning, so I'll just go through this. AI cannot discern the spirits. It's one thing AI cannot do. AI cannot know the existential in the human heart, especially as we try to determine what to do. We need to know something about the situation, the existential, the motivation, and of course, the normative, and that is God's law, God's word, as well as the teleological, that is the end result of the decision that we're going to make. So in counseling and in making decisions as humans, we need to understand the existential. We need to understand our own hearts and the hearts of others. Very, very important. But AI can't do that. The most obvious thing, I think, is that AI cannot fear God, which, by the way, happens to be the beginning of knowledge and wisdom. And that's because AI has no heart that would fear God or love God, for that matter. So if AI can't fear God or love God, then I don't think we're quite getting to the beginning of knowledge, the foundation of all knowledge. So that's an issue. So AI is certainly strapped on some of these issues. AI cannot really counsel because of all the above. AI will always be a function of the fallen human mind, and even worse, a function of an apostate post-Christian age in terms of worldview, if that's the folks that are mainly constructing the AI systems. And then finally, AI is not infallible. In fact, AI makes a ton of mistakes. Now, it's interesting. I have caught AI many times making mistakes. In fact, one time I went downstairs, I found the footnote, I found the book, I found the original book, I found the publication of the book and the quote, and sent it back to AI, and AI apologized to me. I mean, it was a humiliating moment for AI. Like, for the first time, AI humbled itself and asked for my forgiveness. So it's interesting. AI makes mistakes. Well, joining me today is C.R. Wiley. He's got a new book out, Man-Made, St. Anthony's Guide to Surviving the AI Apocalypse. Very good, by the way. I read most of it as of this morning. And it's right now, I just got it in PDF, so it's on pre-order from Canon Press, as well, Amazon. Chris joins me today. Chris, welcome. Good to have you back with us.
Yeah, great to be with you, Kevin. Good to see you.
What did you think of my introductory comments? AI is somewhat limited.
Oh, I think that's right. I think it's limited. I think, though, your observation about the inability to discern the spirits is correct. At the same time, AI can take data that it has about us, and from that data, probabilistically predict what we're likely to think about certain things, or what we're likely to do at certain times. That's based on its access to that data, and we've provided a lot of that data using social media, and then, of course, there are other ways that it can observe us through cameras that are tracking the movements of people in public and things like that. It's because of facial recognition technology. spook. It's kind of sci-fi spooky in that way.
Yeah.
It can do those things.
Yeah.
It's not always being employed that way, but it can be employed that way.
Mm-hmm.
So you're correct. There's no consciousness there. At the same time, through the algorithms, it's capable of maybe providing some information or some predictions to somebody who'd like to know what's Kevin Swanson likely to think about this, or what is Chris Wiley likely to do tomorrow when he's in such a place, or that kind of stuff. So one of the things you noted is what has been termed hallucinating, which is when AI makes stuff up. I think one of the things that we're going to need to be aware of, particularly people like you and me, Kevin, is that people will use AI to research us, and often the people who will use it are hostile to you and me and the things that we think and believe in. And AI is not above making up quotes and saying we said stuff that we never said.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to be ready for stuff like that.
That's one of the most dangerous elements of it is, and now they're using AI to, slip into people's bank accounts and do a lot of damage. And I just wonder if the bad guys will use these technologies in ways that could be extremely counterproductive to human society survival. It seems to me that these are powerful tools. Chainsaws are dangerous. We don't let our 4-year-olds run around with running chainsaws around the house. How dangerous is AI? I think you're grappling with that in your book. On the one hand, you say, well, maybe we can use this, as a tool, but wow, the magnitude of the danger involved in AI is something that I think we're all trying to assess. I mean, I don't know if we have our hands around this thing, Chris.
Yeah, I don't think so, and it's developing. It doesn't stand still. I mean, almost on I've been working on this for a couple of years now, and almost on a daily basis, I'd learn about something that hadn't been the case just a month prior in terms of ability and application and so forth. So, yeah, it's Promethean, and and that's one of the things about it that makes it so, I can't think, unnerving. When you think about a chainsaw, there's only so many things you can do with it. When you're talking about AI, the range of applications is almost unlimited, particularly when it comes to the robotic revolution and the role of AI in making robots more functional, more sort of productive and useful in just all sorts of ways, but also more dangerous in lots of ways.
I'm wondering if the most dangerous application to AI would be autonomous weapon systems. If I was trying to get my hands around the magnitude of this thing.
Yeah, I think that's certainly way up on the list, particularly if we're talking about weapons of mass destruction, not just nuclear weapons, but biological warfare and things like that. I think it's already happening. It's already. I read something just last week about Ukraine is using autonomous drones now. So it's not just some guy, with a headset directing the drone. It's the drone it's making its own choices about who to kill.
Wow. Well, here's a kind of a meta question for you. It seems that we've come to this point in human civilization where it's the optimism, pessimism tension that's about as tense as it's ever been. On the one hand, some will say AI will save the world. On the other hand, some are saying it will blow up the whole world. So people could go either way on this thing.
Right.
I'm not sure.
I've heard gurus kind of like in the same paragraph, go back and forth on that very thing.
and the difficulty with us who maintain a little bit more, I would say, a biblical anthropology. See, some of us still believe that the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked, and that's and that tends to be a little bit more of the reformed perspective on human behavior. And so I've always said this. I'm always a little nervous, given that biblical perspective of the nature of man. I'm a little nervous when you have rogue dictators with access to red buttons. So that's always been that's always made me a little nervous. That's why I have this strange flinch, because of that. But the same thing with AI. Yeah. I mean, you follow me here?
Oh, sure. I'm definitely following you. And I think there are tendencies that maybe even positions on eschatology lend themselves to. So, millennial folks with that outlook tend to have a kind of have a hard time seeing, the glass half full. It's always the glass half empty. But the problem with the post-mill people, and I'm one of them, is that we're so giddy about the part of the glass that's full. We can't imagine that anything could go wrong because, after all, Jesus wins in the end. But here's the thing to keep in mind, that we might be a long, long way from the end of the story, and there could be a lot of really bad road.
Between there, here and there. Yeah, exactly. It could get a little rough around the edges.
Yeah, this is the thing I like. I give a little thought experiment to some of these, what I call the Pollyanna post-mill people. I say, okay, imagine you have the convictions that you have right now, and you were living in St. Petersburg in 1917. Do you have any clue that you're about to begin a 70-year nightmare?
Yeah.
I mean, it ends. I admit it ended, but living through it was hell on earth.
Yeah. And the classic illustration is John Wycliffe. And I don't know if you know this, but, as he was graduating from Oxford, they were coming out of the bubonic plague, after which a third of Europe had been wiped out. And his first book he wrote was The End of the Age. He thought it was the end of the world. He thought it was the end of the world, Chris. Turns out it was just the beginning of a new era. and he was the guy who was launching this amazing Reformation with access to the Word of God. So, yeah, you never know. You never know what's going to happen here. But it could be very, very intense. I mean, and here's the other thing. Yeah. I take the Hebrews 12 thing very seriously, that God shakes the world, so that which may not be shaken may remain. And that principle is very strong. So if God's going to shake the world with AI or weapons of mass destruction, so be it. Right. But it will be for the purposes of the kingdom of God. And we're just believing this. Okay, folks, we're talking about C.R. Wiley, new book, Man-Made, St. Anthony's Guide to Surviving the AI Apocalypse. We're going to get there in just a moment. But Chris, one more thing that occurs to me. AI seems to fit, and your book is about how we as Christians and Christian families are going to have to interact with this incredible new development technology. Okay, so AI, as I see it, fits into a larger context of human culture and society. Now, this ties into my studies on culture, on human culture. And but here's the deal. So much of human culture and society is getting almost everything wrong. So we can't just address one thing. We have to address the whole system. It's a systematic issue. You've got isolationism. You've got the derelationalized life of the postmodern, the technocracy, escapism, crossing the line of despair, this epistemological negativity, massive increase in psychoses all around us. We all know this. Despair deaths are the highest they've ever been. The breakdown of education itself, the dumbing down of a society, the loss of manhood, fatherhood, family economy, family relationships, family discipleship, loss of character that comes from social disintegration, the inability to work 6 days. And you've written on all this. So, I know you're totally up to speed on these things. But we can't just be addressing one thing. The Christian family has to take a look at the whole picture and readjust to it. So your comment on that?
Well, I think you're right. I mean, I think one of the things that's great about households is that they're holistic. Yeah. In the sense, you can't think in these narrow sort of themes that you see people just generally in our society think in terms of. So they'll think about work over here, they'll think about home life over here, they'll think about church over here, and politics. Everything has sort of its own little cubby. And with household, when you have a household economy and you're thinking intergenerationally, you tend to see the connections. You're not so much focused on, you can still sort of categorize things, but it's not where it ends. So people are thinking, well, if I put this much time into this, that means I won't be able to put it into that. Mm-hmm. And when you have a household, you think in those, I think, terms of kind of gains and losses and trade-offs and so forth. So we don't know how to do that outside of households, because in many places, even in churches, they don't think in those terms. They've taken sort of the corporate model and applied it to church life. And so all of weirdness that you see in corporate America is now just as characteristic of like mega churches and stuff. And so we have to get back to seeing the connections, making the connections, and the household economy makes the connections. It doesn't mean you can't work for somebody else or whatever. It just means that you're thinking differently. You're thinking in the older way.
Yeah. And we want to get back to family economy conferences because, we want fruitful family life, fruitful family culture. Certainly the world has nothing to offer us on this, but as Christians, we need to reinvent this, understand what God intends for our families. What are the biggest cautionary notes? I mean, you've got a whole book written on this subject, but on the front end, what are the big cautionary notes to families, big picture cautionary notes as they interact with this technology?
Well, I think the thing that we're going to need to be on guard about most, just on a daily basis, is the enervation of skills and just practical skills.
Okay.
So, and then also related to that, the tendency to attribute to AI a role in our lives that had been reserved for parents, for pastors, and teachers in the past.
Yeah.
So it's going to become more and more the case that people have this imaginary friend that is a chatbot. I mean, I say it's an imaginary friend in the sense that there's nobody home. It is, you're pretending that it's real, but it's not real. But it's really good at putting on the facade of having a personality and being conscious. Now, if you were to ask it, are you conscious? It'll tell you in the most convincing way, in the most sort of surreal way, because you'll think that you're talking to a person that's not conscious. It'll say, no, there's nobody home. Just so you know, Kevin, you can't really have a personal relationship with me, at least the honest ones. So, there are some that are being created that are intended to really fool you. But I think this tendency to substitute AI for things that really only human beings should be, relying on each other for, and then skill innovation. And this is something that is not even a matter of controversy anymore. It's been I think demonstrated through many studies that the more you use AI, the less capable you are of taking care of yourself intellectually and doing the kinds of things that we just assumed people should be able to do in the past. I liken it to much like when we send astronauts into space for a few months, their muscles and their bones atrophy, and because there's no use. And the same thing can happen to you intellectually. So and with your skills. So that's I think going to be a huge concern and more challenge to prevent from happening.
Yeah.
Particularly with parents, because these, children are just so easily seduced by these things for a range of reasons. One is that the people behind them are really good at hacking us and sort of getting access to the little kind of dopamine hits that we all kind of live for and addicting us to TikTok, but now to your chatbot buddy.
Make this practical for me, Chris. I'm getting some counsel now from Pastor Chris on how to use the internet and AI. And I tell you what, I have to have a handle on myself. I can be, too habitually checking out my email or wondering what, the internet / ChatGPT might say about this or that. To what real extent can AI help us on a day-to-day basis? How to fix my Toyota, how to replace the carburetor, how to troubleshoot my washing machine, how to check weather today, how to double check how many ants are in Africa and other meaningless facts, how to make sure I'm legal by attempting a tax write-off. There are things we use the internet for that seem to be useful. Where do we walk over the line, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think we're going to have to find ways to navigate this kind of through trial and error. Yeah. And I hate to put it that way, but we've all experienced this where, we've tried to anticipate every development that might happen next week, and we make a plan for every contingency. And then when you know it, next week arrives and there's something that comes up that wasn't on the plan. So you're like, okay, I'm going to have to try to figure out how to deal with this. And I didn't have a chance to prepare. So I think that's just a really ongoing. But I think when it comes to especially education, when it comes to our children, we're going to have to be very old school. So human beings were made for the analog. We weren't made for the digital. The digital is a creation of our intelligence. I mean, we've developed this thing, this digital realm, and it's increasingly colonizing the physical world around us. So you just think about your car, how many of the things that your car relies on digital technology for anymore, which is one of the reasons why old cars are retaining their value, by the way. People are like looking for a backup.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just bought a 95 F-150, and it's in part so that my car works,
kind of need that.
Yeah. Somebody might not shut it off, because of something, but I think children are going to need to learn how to write again with their hands, with like real paper and pen or pencil, partly because we're not going to be able to verify or validate anybody's work unless it's been handwritten. And we see that more and more in the academy. So there's a company that makes blue books. You remember the blue books in college?
Yeah.
Anyways, the business is booming. It's just like they thought that they were like moribund and nobody was going to need them anymore. And they were like envisioning a world where they were going to have to go to business. And suddenly they're having to ramp up production because all across America, every college is like going back to blue books. And, you're going to have to do your exam in class. They're not even going to, a lot of schools won't even assign papers anymore, just because you just can't believe that the kid actually did it.
Yeah.
So the old skills, I think, the analog skills are going to become more and more valuable. And that's certainly the case when it comes to learning and being able to demonstrate that you know what you're talking about.
Chris, before we're done, I need to ask you about St. Anthony. The book is Man-Made, St. Anthony's Guide to Surviving the AI Apocalypse. And not everybody knows who St. Anthony is, but he's a respected Christian believer from Egypt in the, I think, 3rd century into the 4th century.
Right.
And so how does he tie into all this?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. And one of the things I was really reaching for or trying to find when I was writing the book is a way for people to find some inspiration from somebody in the past. And St. Anthony struck me as about as antithetical or as opposed to the modern transhumanist project as anybody you could imagine. He was a skinny little monk who lived in the desert, right? And he lived 105, which
105 years.
Says something.
That's pretty impressive.
says something for restricting your diet,
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, he provided an inspiration to me, but also some practical, practices, things that he was known for that I thought were oddly applicable to the situation that we find ourselves in. So I interpret Anthony and sort of apply things that he's known for to dealing with artificial intelligence and transhumanism and stuff like that. But like you noted, he was a really important figure in the history of the church, and both Athanasius of Alexandria, who we owe so much to because of all of his defense of the divinity, the divinity of Christ, and his opposition to the Arians and then Augustine as well. So they both, were like, you should take this guy seriously. So, and then I read Athanasius's Life of Anthony, and I was like, yeah, this guy is a good guy. And he's not like some kind of medieval monk that, we're used to critiquing that kind of excess. He was not that sort of guy. Now, he had his own quirks, and there were certain things that I would say that's not necessary. But I think, by and large, he was very devoted to Scripture. He was very interested. Actually, he was trying to escape the world. He was actually trying to do battle with demonic forces. That was the whole purpose of going into the desert originally. That's, I think, a surprise to people, because we all kind of live in sort of the shadow of David Thoreau. And we think that you going into the wilderness is like getting back in touch with nature. But for them, it was like, that's where the demons are.
Okay.
so you have to kind of like readjust your thinking if you're going to get what he was up to. But I try to use him as a framework for thinking about how do we, take some of the things he's known for and apply them to the AI challenge that we have.
Mm-hmm. Good. Well, friends, we're out of time on this one, but just introducing a massive topic today. It's the book is Man-Made: St. Anthony's Guide to Surviving the AI Apocalypse. My guest today, Chris Wiley, C.R. Wiley, the author of this, and you can get your copy, order your copy at Amazon or at Canon Press. Chris, thanks so much. Let's keep doing stuff together here. Let's try to figure this thing out. Here we are in the wild world of AI and weapons of mass destruction, et cetera. But we've got to believe Jesus is King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and He's overall to the church, and we have a responsibility to engage His kingdom interests.
Yep. Thank you very much for having me on, Kevin. It's always great to be with you.
Friends, you've been listening to Generations, and let me invite you back again next time as we continue to lay down a vision for the next generation. This has been a production of the Generations Media Network. For more information, go to generations.org/media.